Katie Winkleman. Something popped up. I'm Katie Winkleman. I'm from the Baroqua Pack 9. I have to remember the number. I'm kind of the de facto Cub master. It's a new pack that we're starting up, or I guess there used to be a pack, but it had folded a year or two ago, and so they're restarting it. My family and I, we just moved into the area over the summer. So we come from a really active pack, or we came from a really active pack in Whitewater. So I know kind of how things are supposed to look and go in scouting, but I've never really held a leadership role before. We have like 5 other families that are really enthusiastic about being involved, but have never been involved before. So we're just looking to get more information on scheduling is a big one, and I guess just how to run things.
And like you were saying, how to, like, you have scouts, 2 lions, 3 tigers, 2 wolves, a bear, and a weeblo, but you're all kind of meeting together. And then so how do you, they don't have separate dens yet, but maybe some help in like how you kind of lay out the calendar and manage it. And so Kate, why don't you take it away and introduce yourself? And
Hi, I am Kate Russell. I'm from PAC 279 in Toma, and I became involved probably 4 years ago in a leadership role. I serve both on the committee and as a den leader. So yeah, it was new to me too when our family got involved in scouting. My husband was a scout. But again, I think that leadership role, it takes you to a different level. So as I was listening to you and kind of your scenario, I remember that when, so I also work with recruiting, and I remember when Scouts BSA opened up the programming to girls, I attended a session where we were kind of talking about the one room schoolhouse kind of approach. And it sort of sounds like that's where you're at with, you don't have enough members to make individual dens.
Definitely. Yeah, we have one girl. We have one girl of our 9 kids. So.
Okay. I don't have the paperwork readily available to me, but our scoutmaster, Scott White, I can get this for you. He had pulled up a calendar that kind of, I'm sorry about my dogs. He had a document that kind of integrated all of the different areas. I can't even think of an example. Let's say it was hiking or outdoor. I can't think of, so it was kind of thematic based, and it pulled in, where that fit in with each of the different dens. And so something like that could be really beneficial for you, because it's going to be hard. Again, like we go back to that kind of idea of a one room schoolhouse, and how you're going to integrate the different dens into, so that they're working on the things that are appropriate to them, and yet, you're still keeping your program running. So I guess, what specific questions do you have?
I don't even know where to start with that.
So Kate, when we were kind of prepping for this, you had some, ideas of how you take, how you kind of plan out your calendar a little bit, as well as how you get parent involvement. Maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah, so, well, I know a big thing coming up is the Pinewood Derby, and we're all kind of scared for that. I've attended Pinewood Derbies. I've never planned one. So I contacted Lisa Stenslin from Chaseburg. I'm still waiting to hear back from her this week, but so we're planning on doing a joint one. And I think there was, Zach, you had sent me an email of from Seneca. I
Yeah.
think the Seneca pack. So I think it might be all three of us together, which would be great because I think we're all
Yeah.
three small
Mhm.
packs. So that makes it less scary. But as far as preparing for the Pinewood Derby, you know, making sure each kid has a car to build. I don't think any of the adults in our pack are really handy with woodworking. So we're trying to figure that out. Because we were hoping to have like in our old pack, it was totally optional, like a workshop day for families who didn't have the tools or the knowledge on how to, you know, make a Pinewood Derby car. They would all get together at someone's house. Well, we don't have anybody in our pack like that. So, you know, that was one thing that we were, and otherwise it just seems like every week we're picking like, okay, well, you know, 3 or 4 days before we meet, we're like, a couple adults and I were like, well, what are we going to do at this meeting? I know we plan on doing a hike, but it's not the time of the year right now to do that.
Yeah.
We, you know, so there's one meeting will be a hike, one meeting will be the Pinewood Derby, but those are kind of more in the future. And I don't know if you were on the call when I was saying, I feel like we've kind of exhausted all of the easy options of activities to do that encompass all of the you know, ages, all the ranks. And so now it's getting harder to kind of split to where,
Piece it together.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure, knowing what scouts can look like when it's run really well, like, you know, had time to be established really well, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's really hard for me to like scale it back. And I just want to make sure that each kid gets their requirements done to make their rank. And you know, I just want to do things right, I guess. It's just, yeah. So
Tom?
I've got a question for you, Katie. Have you,
Yeah.
and this is probably pretty obvious, have you looked at the council calendar? Because there's 1 or 2 events, one coming up this weekend, but the Polar Cub Day Camp toward the end of the month.
I have not looked at the calendar for this month. We had COVID like 2 weeks ago, and that really like knocked me out, like our whole family out of it. So I still have to look at the calendar for this month. I feel like there's, with other families in our den, I feel like there's some hesitation to get everybody to drive up to council. So I don't know how to tackle that with the other families, you know, the other leaders.
Kate, what have you kind of done in terms of laying out a calendar, like across maybe even different dens? Do you have some thoughts on that?
We have not done that.
Yeah. I was thinking Kate Russell. I was going to ask her what she might have that.
Yeah, in our pack, you know, we do our committee calendar, which has we do that in July, August. We lay it out for the year, you know, and it's not too late for you to do that. To just get those things on your calendar, and there's a lot of resources online so that you can, you know, you have an organizational tool, you know, Cub Scout planning calendar. So you want to probably plug in your pack activities first, because it sounds like those you are pretty familiar with and you know what you've got coming that you want to do. And then in terms of planning for the dens, the individual den leaders are doing that. And again, that looks really different for you. So do you have any dens where there's more than, you have several in one den?
Yeah, we have 2 lions, I think 3 tigers and 2 wolves.
Okay, so you've got also a young group.
Yes, yeah.
Along with 1 bear and 1 weeblo.
1 bear and 1 weebelos, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would consider you know, leaning on not just the leaders, but also the kids. So Katie, my other background is that I'm an educator. I've been teaching for 18 years. And I'm an early childhood educator. So that idea of integration and multi-age and stuff, I know quite a bit about that. So I would lean on both your den leaders and your bears and weeblos. They're not too young to,
Mhm.
and you know, not, I think how you frame it for them is going to be really important to your success. But, you know, leaning on them a little bit to be what the little ones are looking up to and kind of helping to guide. So are they new to Scouts? The bears?
So my bear scout, he's from Westby, so we kind of took a couple families from Westby and Viroqua to form a Viroqua pack. I found out that our bear scout was in scouting, I think 2 years ago, when there used to be a Westby pack, and then last
Okay.
year during COVID, he was not active.
Okay.
So between my family and then that one, and he doesn't have any siblings in it. It was just one boy, and his mom, but I don't know how active his mom was then. So she's again kind of the de facto bear den leader because that's her son.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but that's the most experience that we
Yeah,
have.
and you were saying you really don't have den leaders yet either.
Not
Sure.
really. Yeah. Because
So
everybody,
how would you handle that, Kate Russell, like in terms of they don't even have den leaders yet, and yet asking someone to be a den leader is scary. So, you try to, I think you were saying when we were prepping this, like sort of ask them to do tasks more
Yes.
than.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely think, as you're talking about even the council events, I talked about in our planning meeting, just that personal invitation goes a long way.
Mhm.
And it takes time on your part. But you saying, my family has headed up to Camp Decorah to do this event, and it sounds like it's going to be so much fun. Emailing them the PDF of the event. But I really think that your personal contact, and I wouldn't be afraid to just say, we're new and we're in this together.
Mhm.
And just be really honest with them that you need their help to get momentum going for all the kids so that not just their kid, but all of them can be successful.
Okay.
Because you can't do it on your own. I think
Yeah.
that's something that that you really need to stress to them, that you need their input. And I had talked about our PAC used to do like a interest survey or talent survey, but maybe you just want to again make that personal contact, a phone call, and say these are some of the things that we've got coming up. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a family. It could be a grandparent. It could be you contacting the Viroqua School District and saying, hey, we need to build these Pinewood Derby cars. Do you have any families or high school students that would be interested in helping us get going? Because I think a lot of communities really support scouting. They don't always know how, but if you can identify what specific needs, I think a lot of people, I can think of some people that may have kids that are out of the home that would just love nothing more than to have a bunch of kids come over and they could work on cutting out Pinewood Derby cars together. And then you're getting more buy-in from your community as well. Do you have a charter organization?
Zach, we do kind of, I guess. Zach, I don't know, was that finalized?
Yeah, so
Okay.
you being on the call tonight actually reminded me I need to reach out to the church because I sent them all the paperwork after they said yes, this is a go, and this is we've even got a guy, so Elias won't be your charter rep anymore. It'll actually be this guy named Brian, who his kid got his Eagle through. Came up through Pac-9 and got his Eagle. I think he's in his mid-20s, so his name's Brian. I'm going to get you connected with him after the paperwork comes back. But yeah, I've got it all over to them, just haven't received it back. So I'm going to reach out to him tomorrow.
Okay.
Is there anyone else, Tom or Zach or Joe, and the council that sort of is a Pinewood Derby contact with equipment or anything that is from close to that area at all?
Well, so I sent Elias and Katie, I CC'd you in an email. There's probably somebody in Viroqua that can help out. I mean, Elias is also connected with the theater there. So I'm
Oh,
sure there's probably somebody within the
Cool.
theater that he
Oh.
might be able to connect you with. But Kate, I really liked your idea of reaching out to the school.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of doing
Yeah.
something like that because there probably is a
A
shop
workshop or something?
in the high
Yeah.
school. Yeah.
And
I mean,
one of our dads, I think he's friends or somehow he knows the wood shop teacher at the high school. And another one of our parents is the district administrator for the school, but we
Oh,
haven't
awesome.
taken it to that step to actually contact the woodworking teacher yet.
I was gonna say that, or if you guys have like an FFA group up there, I know
Great.
they,
Oh,
you know,
that's a
we
good
do a
one.
lot of that. If you want to go directly to whoever works with the FFA kids.
But yeah, those are really good ideas to connect to the school district. I really like that because it helps,
Mhm,
put scouting back visible in front of some others and kind of build
mhm.
local community investment. And if you have not connected with Elias yet, you'll find that he's a really strong resource right in the city of Viroqua for scouting.
Yeah.
Excited
Okay.
to
Yeah,
do
he's helped us with some of our meetings for sure. I think our first structured meeting, he really helped me a lot planning an activity with the kids and doing stuff. So
One of the things, what you're talking about, you have a lot of different Cub Scout ranks and all the different adventures that they still need to do that they don't
Mhm.
kind of can't be done across. One technique I've kind of used is so you could print out the different adventures left, and have them on strips of paper, right?
Mhm.
And then you kind of lay that out, right? And
Yeah.
then I have parents then, like I give them dots. You each have a different colored dot or something, and like, put your dot on which one you think you could lead,
Mhm.
and then
Oh, that's a good idea.
they put, and they could maybe do something like, so if they like cooking or something, they could do the cooking one across the different ranks, right?
Yes.
And then you kind of like, so you're not telling them to be a den leader, but they're just picking one adventure that they would teach, or maybe 5 or 6 of them, and like, okay, everybody, so we have 20, I don't know how many more left to do, so that each rank gets theirs finished this year, and divide them up, and each, like each person has a different color dot, and put your color on those
Yeah.
ones that you can do, right?
I
Yeah.
like
And
that.
they're all laid out on a table, and then you're like, okay, now then I put like the calendar, I print monthly calendar out so that, you have left February, March, April, May.
Mhm.
And then like, okay, where can each of these, group them into which ones would be done at this PAC meeting, which ones would be done at another one, and kind of lay it out and see, okay, let's do these 4 or 5 together, and then those 2 parents will do those on that date,
I
Mhm.
love that.
so that it's just sort of, you lay it all out on a big table, and like you say, maybe even the Weeblo and the Bear, they could pick a couple that they could lead, and for the younger ones, and that way it's everybody, we always say everybody can do something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody can do something that's on, these adventures are not that hard, right? They're a part of what we do in our regular life as we try to teach them as parents, what we try to teach them,
Yeah.
but some are good with other things.
I thought of another thing that I would say we struggle with it, but we don't even have it. Is a budget or like we don't even have like a PAC checking account or funds. So it's kind of the things that we've been doing, parents have just kind of pitched in here or there. But I don't know. And I know like we can't have an account until our charter becomes official.
Yeah.
But once that happens, how does that work? How do you guys budget things out or handle dues for our, not, council dues, but our PAC dues? How do you find out what to ask each family for? How do you approach that or handle that, I guess would be my question.
That's something that, we have been discussing in our pack as well. And we're not necessarily new. We have money in our checking account, but when it comes to, so I have 12 kiddos in my Weeblos one. We should almost be splitting, but we've kept them together. It was one thing when I was the leader of 5 scouts, but now that I'm 12, that's a lot of money for leaders to, pony up. And I know when I hear my husband talk, or even his dad talk about their experiences in scouting, and maybe some of you can speak to this, in some packs, I think that especially, a time ago, people paid like weekly dues or monthly dues. So what we had talked about in our pack at the last committee meeting was kind of making a decision. And again, some of that comes with your planning, planning ahead. We have this cooking experience coming up. So those types of things, people can sign up to bring things. I had a situation where 4 of the families that signed up weren't able to come, and I ended up having to buy items, and that stuff happens. But just trying to figure out what each adventure is going to cost, or if there is a cost, and then just asking families for that specific amount of money. I don't know what other, some of you might be able to speak to how other packs handle that, but yeah, money is definitely something that we have to be planful of, because we don't want to tax leaders. They're volunteering, and so we don't want them to have to also pay for things out of their own pocket if they're not wanting to or not able to.
Yeah,
Do you
I
guys?
guess I was just going to say one thing. Another thing I've seen, tracking if you're going to charge dues or whatever, give them the opportunity to raise that money through, if you're not going to pay any dues and you have to sell X amount of popcorn, you have to sell X amount of camp cards. Or if you have other fundraisers beyond that, then you've got to do whatever for it. So some units just say, hey, you've got to raise this amount of money throughout the year. And if you're short, then we, $20 short, then we need to cover that because we've got expenses as a pack. And you just kind of got to lay it out for families. And, your first 2 fundraisers are your camp cards and popcorn through the council that are pretty low risk for your unit. So that's where you start, and you can kind of build it out from there. And we've got some tools with popcorn that we could do some budgeting with you guys specifically.
I kind of forgot about popcorn because
you guys started
after,
right? Yeah, right when
I
popcorn was finishing up. So, but we'll also do some camp cards, and one of the things, and I'll throw this out to you, Kate, too. One of the things we're thinking about doing this year, since a lot of stuff is in La Crosse, if there's like a specific spot in Viroqua or Toma or something that we can, like a family restaurant that's local, that we can do a discount with them and just do a little coupon with it, that's helping your area, and we can send those off with you guys. So, even though the camp card kind of seems La Crosse based a little bit, we're trying to figure out ways to help you guys out that are, not always coming here or a little bit further away. So we've got both of those opportunities.
And I heard, Zach, it was you that were talking to parents, and then you talked to our Cub Master and myself following a recruitment night. I think if you frame it, because you guys are in a situation right now where the funds are not there right now. So you have to look at that short term, and then looking at the things that Zach was talking about in a long term, as to helping you with your next year and going forward. But short term, I heard Zach talking about how, when we frame it to parents as to really, this is a very low cost program in terms of, I look at my friends that do club sports and dance and, other types of activities with their kids, they are spending way more money than we are. And so asking your families to pay a certain amount of money in dues beyond what the council dues are, is not an unreasonable thing. I think for a lot of families coming in, when you're paying for your uniform and your book right off the bat, it seems kind of expensive at first. But again, when you put that in contrast to what people are paying for their other kids' activities, Scouts is a really affordable program.
Yeah.
And one of the things, we started a new unit, so I'm a leader in a female Scouts BSA troop. And we started just in 2020. And so it was 6 girls. And we knew, like, okay, they're going to be earning merit badges and, stuff that we have to pay for. And so we had each parent pay in, I think it was $50, each Scout family would pay in 50, and that would create our bank account. And we did, I asked someone, does anyone know how to use spreadsheet, or anybody like knows how to handle a checking account? Like someone like, of course, I'm like, could you help start like just managing? And I don't want to say treasurer, but we kind of need somebody, like, don't give them a title, just manage this and create, you can get a free checking account set up initially, right? Just free, and that's separate. And then as soon as you get your charter, then it can be, changed over to something else. So it's just in a separate account, and you get a quick little debit card or something with it. So then he did that. And then, like Zach said, okay, now it looks like we'll need money for X, Y, and Z. And so we expect, each family to sell this much amount of popcorn, which we had it as $300 of popcorn. And so then that would give, a certain amount then to the troop, and of course the council, and then so forth. So, just starting off with a little pool of money that you can work with from every family. That's for the, belt loops or, whatever. And then each event, like we had one camping overnight. Okay, we split up so that everybody who was bringing, like you say, everybody had something to bring. But if they're not going to bring something, and you should say, you should still somehow get what you were going to bring to the event, because if you're gonna, like, we had that one time, we're gonna have the chili with the fixings, and then the people who were going to bring the fixings didn't come. It's like, well, still got we got chili with no cheese or anything, So.
One other finance item that I'll touch on briefly to kind of be aware of, as you're helping the parents and families in your pack, is we do have a financial assistance program called No Scout Left Behind. And the intent on that is if there's a family in your unit where they would not be able to have the same scouting experience, just because of family situation, maybe there's, many children in the family that are all very busy, or maybe there's been a recent job change or a medical challenge or any variety of things out there. That family or yourself as the unit leader can apply for funds through that program, and we'll provide, some help with that to maybe help cover a portion of somebody's summer camp cost, or to help a scout get a uniform shirt, or cover a portion of their annual BSA registration. And I'll share the link for that inside the chat here so that everybody has that. So I just wanted to help everybody be aware of that program, because it is relatively new.
Okay.
Yeah, Katie, I think you're in a very unique situation in the sense that you're just, kind of getting everybody going. But the fact that they all joined you means that they value it. And, certainly not everybody in our pack is carrying the same weight or the same responsibilities. But I think, like Elizabeth was saying, asking them to take on one adventure or several adventures and just committing to that. And I think one of the things that helps our parent volunteers is just that reassurance. You're not alone. We're going to do this together. And if you have questions, I'm available. And I don't know always, but we'll find out together. And do it with a smile. And that just goes a long way, I think, in reassuring people and getting them to go on board with you. Because again, they value scouting. They decided to join your new pack. And so I think that means they value it. Just how you get them to go to the next step, which is the help and assistance role, it's gonna carry a lot of weight. And I think, you know, just based on what I'm hearing, I think there's gonna be some footwork, a lot of footwork for you to do, some personal phone calls to make, you know, including the ones where you're reaching out to the school. But I really think that's going to pay dividends for you going forward, is to just making those calls and getting people on board. I think that's going to help build your program, build your pack. You know, as a teacher, I always talk about how, you know, when we can get community members into our building and doing things like reading to our kids, they become vested. They have a vested interest. And I think that there is a strong commitment, especially in the smaller towns like Viroqua, to organizations like Scouts, and you don't hear about 4-H so much anymore, but I do think that in the smaller communities where those once were really thriving, I think that they're still valued. And I think you're going to find people in your community that can be supportive and can step into some of the roles as you're growing. And then hopefully you'll have more families taking over. When I was at the American Legion, it was an art and craft fair or something, but we were selling popcorn, and there was like 5 American Legion people that were like, oh, if you want to learn about bird watching, you need to come out to my house. Their kids can hike. And so there's a lot of people out there. It's just tapping into them, and that can be exhausting on your part, but it will help lighten your load, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You know, reaching out to the schools or anything like that, you know, lean on Elias, or you can ask myself as well. I can help kind of make some of these phone calls for you too. If it's, you know, there's only 24 hours in the day, so you can only get so much done. So that's the other thing is, I know you're new to town, but lean on the other people in your pack. And if they've got you know, if we're trying to get a hold of the high school, they've got a kid in high school or whatever, you know, that might be the right parent to make that phone call. It's not like I'm not always the best person to make the call. Just, you know, I'm trying to find somebody at the shop to do the Pinewood Derby cars, for example, because I don't have a kid in the school. So I'm just the organization. Whereas if somebody's got a kid, or, you know, you guys all live in town, that makes just a little bit more of a difference on making an ask like that. So utilize your resources. And you know, Elias has been in Viroqua for a long time, so he's going to know a lot of people there too. So don't be afraid to ask him, you know,
And what
who's out
about
there.
the troop? What is there a troop in Viroqua?
There is a troop. And so that's the Springborn family, Wendy and Roger Springborn. You know, I don't know if we've gotten you connected with them just yet, Katie. But, you know, we were just letting the pack kind of get their footing here before we got them connected.
How big that troop is? Like how many scouts they have?
I think they got about 10 to 15. I can look up the exact number here.
There might be a parent in there that still has all their Pinewood Derby stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, we still have ours in the basement from when my son was in Cub Scouts. It's in a thing called Pinewood Derby tools, and it's just sitting there. I was like,
And
maybe
that's the thing is,
get it to you somehow.
I believe that
when we moved here, we're renting a house in town. We thought we would find a house to buy a long time ago, and so all of our tools are in storage. So we have
it's in there somewhere.
Yeah. So we're it's interesting year.
Yeah.
And you know, as far as our pack, I feel like we're, you know, there's hurdles for us because we have so few scouts. But I personally right now at this moment, it's like, well, do we even want to try to get more? Because then I don't, you know, I feel like in some ways it would be easier to have separate duns, you know. But right now, I don't know, I think for the immediate I'm just trying to focus on what we have now, I guess, is the
Sure,
best
sure.
thing.
Can I put something in real quick?
Yeah.
You're working across ranks and stuff like that. You know, Scott White and Toma came up, and this is maybe something you can do it in the wintertime, it'd be easier in the spring. He came up with a scavenger hunt that was a hike basically, and you adjust it by the size of the, you know, what the rank requirement is, but you can incorporate the whole thing. And they just go on a hike and they point out, you know, you go a certain amount of distance or whatever, and you point out this and that and the other, and that counts off on some of the rank requirements.
Mhm.
Scott put that together. That really worked well.
Yeah, I think Scott has, I don't have them saved to my computer, so I'll reach out to Scott.
Thank you.
But he's got what Tom talked about. He's got the calendar that I talked about. I think that we would feel comfortable sharing our budget with you. You know, it's obviously not going to be the same, but sometimes it's nice to have something to look at to
Yeah,
just
the rest.
give you a direction. And another thing that our PAC has done, you know, Tom just reminded me, we try to do outdoor events a lot, especially with COVID, but there it was like, I think it was before the pandemic, the year before the pandemic, we went scouting for food, and then we were going to have a camp out. It was in April and there was like a blizzard. So we ended up canceling that for that time, but camp outs, or sometimes it doesn't even have to be a camp out. I think some your kids sound like they're pretty young, and especially a camp out where the weather could be questionable. I always kind of shy away from that because I don't think we want to discourage families. But those outdoor events, we've done like a county park. We did a county park, and that's another opportunity where, like Tom said, you can kind of, so we call it differentiating in education, but just like Tom said, you kind of tweak what your overall, you know, so if there's a cooking experience, you're kind of tweaking it to what each adventure requires. So these guys are going to work on planning it. These guys are going to, you know, work on this aspect of the cooking experience. So you can kind of have it set up as stations, and not every station is going to help make an adventure for somebody, but that is one activity that really lends itself well to knocking out several different dens.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
stations
just-
is a great idea. Mhm.
Is there a park or a public facility near you that has a shelter? That's like a cabin type shelter? I know Toma has one.
I'm
Wait.
not sure.
Yeah, that would be something, might be something to explore, because you could do a lock-in, or you can even do a lock-in in the church basement if they let you.
Mhm.
Of course, you got to unlock it and let them out in the morning, but no, you know, those are things that, you know, the kids can get together and spend some time and get more acquainted with. Are you using Scout Book by any chance? Are you? doing
We
that?
are not set up with that yet because our charter, I think Zach, you were saying we need to be officially chartered before they can get all that going.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
so
So
that-
none of their information's in the system at the moment, so they don't have.
We're just really stuck in a real bad place right now.
Right. No.
Are-
So I will track down this paperwork here. Hopefully I can, if I've got to run out there, I'll run out there and try and get it. Try and
Are
get
you
it in as
familiar
soon
with?
as we can.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Scout Book though?
Kind of.
Kind of, okay.
I think it was January of 2020. I said I would take over as advancement chair, and then for my old PAC, and then the pandemic hit and things changed. So I don't have any like training on it, and all I know how to do is I know what it's capable of, but I don't know how to do a lot of things. I just know how to like log in and see which kid needs what thing, and you know, the reports and stuff like that, but I don't know from a Cub Master standpoint.
There's a kind of a, I don't want to call it a dummy account. There's you can go in and log into an account and pretend to be a Cub Master and
Okay.
move around in it and learn and stuff like that. The
Yeah.
other thing is the online training and Scout Book or My.Scouting. It's a lot of information. And the nice thing about it is it gives you enough residual in your mind to go, let's say I have a question, at least I know what the question is, and I know where to go back and refer to and find the answer to that. And then
Yeah.
the training, because you can do that again anytime.
So My Dot Scouting has a scout book tutorial now.
Well,
Does
it's
it teach it at all?
Scout book, when you go into it, the tutorials in Scout book, but you're also signing in, you can also sign into My Dot Scouting without logging in again. They're kind of they're connected.
Oh.
Zach knows all about that. Well, I'm
Yeah,
sure Kate does
so
too.
they got rid of ScoutNet on our end and moved everything to My Dot Scouting. So one less login for us on the national side, and hopefully,
One less place to lose information too.
yes, and hopefully we'll get to less logins for you guys too as volunteers, because I know those start to add up. But Scoutbook and My Dot Scouting are the same login information, and if you want to do a crash course, we could actually get all the parents in a room and kind of do one together.
I would love that.
That worked actually pretty well, I'd say, for one of the packs here in La Crosse that kind of got reorganized after the pandemic. And I think they really enjoy Scoutbook because there's a ton of different features. And really, it's you just kind of got to go in and play with it. I had really only checked it out one time because what I see in Scoutbook, I log in as a district director. So I don't really have anything in Scoutbook because I'm not connected to a unit. So when I got to log in as a unit, I played around a little bit, and it's pretty easy to figure out. It just takes some time to, see where everything is located, because there's a ton of different information you can pull out of there.
Yeah.
But it can create
Kate,
your
would
calendar.
you have anything on Scout Book that you would recommend before even Katie gets started with it, with her pack?
Well, I mean, I was going to say, so again, during our planning, I shared with Joe and Elizabeth that I came to be a den leader by co-leading with my husband, and he kind of had he was the expert, and then he moved on to Scouts BSA. And so I kind of, as Zach was talking about, I learned by just exploring. I had to go in there, and because I'm a committee member and work with recruiting, I also have full access or whatever, full administration rights or whatever. But one of the features that I love, the communication part, especially as your pack grows, is really helpful. It'll send an email, and we were talking in our planning meeting about the text feature that can be used as well to communicate with your families. I love the visuals for families in terms of showing what percentage complete, and you said that you were somewhat familiar with it from before. So I think it's not just a tool for the leaders, but it's also a tool for the families to go in and check their kids' stuff and see. One of the things that I've been using it for is attendance. Again, I have 12 kids, and so I think I want to remember, but then I'm like, was that kid there? I can't remember. So I go in the calendar where I created, so we put our events in there, including den meetings, and I go into the event in the calendar, and I'm able to take attendance in there. I think there's a lot of features that would be helpful. One of the things that I have done also in the past is print out the requirements for each of the adventures, not the electives, but just the core ones. And I've asked my scouts to keep a folder that they bring back and forth to the meetings. And again, that's a great communication tool for the scouts and the parents. And I think with Elizabeth's suggestion of laying out the adventures, that could be helpful. So you can just print the adventures. You can print the requirements for each of those adventures, and it comes out, there's no pictures or anything like that. It's more like a checklist. But that could be really helpful in your planning to see what things cross over. And then, you can work with the parents to figure out who's going to lead what.
So it sounds like it's important to get the chartered organization piece done, and then get that into Scout Book and get the, get that set up so that you can use this scout book as well, besides
Yeah.
just trying to do things off of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
that'd be great.
I thought of two other things that I wanted to ask about. So my older son, my youngest is a lion, so this is his first year in scouting, but my older son, when he was, I think, a wolf, it was his last year before everything shut down. I can't remember if it was early on in his bear year or if it was when he was a wolf, but his unit or his den, they learned how to do the flag ceremony.
Yeah.
And we don't have any flags right now. I think they're all at the church from when our pack used to be open before they shut down. But when we get those, how do you guys, I mean, when your unit or when your packs were smaller, I mean, considering we have one Webelos and one bear, how did you approach the flag, the opening ceremony and the flags? And because my little kids, they're not strong enough to hold that flagpole or remember what they're going to do. And we don't have the numbers to do I don't know, how would you just skip it at pack meetings, or how would you?
I think you use it as a teachable moment, I mean, even if you are having adults carry the flags and having a kid walk beside them, because we also want to have reverence for our flag, and let's not put the flag on the ground.
Yeah.
But taking them through the steps, and you know what, we want to have that reverence, but it's also a teaching time. And so it doesn't have to be as formal as you would have had it before, or as you plan to have it in the future. I think right now you're kind of in a hand over hand situation where you've got older kids and maybe adults that are shadowing and kind of providing the framework for these younger kids. I'm going to help you carry the flag. I wouldn't skip it. I think it's so important. And again, like if you mess up and you want to laugh about it, I think that's how we learn. I mean, and even now we have some of our older scouts, that are running the flag ceremony, and they're new at it, and we just take it at the pace that they need it to be.
Okay.
That's what I think. I don't know. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, we started our unit, and we didn't have any flags. But one family had an extra US flag, and, one person had a pole. So, and then we looked on eBay and found a couple stands. And then the troop flag, we all pitched in, to buy it. But if you just have the US flag, and like you say, you might have the flags already actually, but just having what Kate had said with the adults leading it, and it has taken us a long time to get our flag ceremony, even as sixth graders, Yeah.
Well, and I have been really good about starting each meeting with, we have sometimes it's just a picture of a flag on my iPad, because right now we're not even in our hopefully permanent meeting station, meeting place right now. Like everything's just up in the air. So sometimes we have a little, like one of those little flags. Sometimes it's just been a picture of a flag on my iPad, but we do start every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and doing the scout oath and going through the laws. So I do have all of our families working on memorizing the things for the Bobcat badge. So that is another thing that I don't quite know how to go forward about. I've never led a Bobcat ceremony. I've only just for my oldest son, when he earned his Bobcat badge, we were obviously went through that ceremony, but I don't know when all of our other kiddos are ready to do that, how to host that, how to put that on.
I'll kick in here because I've thought about that a lot. Number one, when you're doing a flag ceremony, you get a small enough group, you can have all the kids march.
Okay.
Even if you have the two older ones carrying the flags, you can have all the kids march and participate and line up and do
Okay.
As far as the Weeblos or the Bobcat, you know, you go through the requirements and you're making them acquainted with, you know, the scout law. Well, the scout law, that's a bunch of things, and the scout oath and the handshake, and they're going to get that all through the time they're in scouting. So the main thrust is they're very young. It's just to make them acquainted with the concept, and you know, if they can, you know, at least look like they're paying attention to you when you're talking to them. You know, I'm very liberal with that, because they'll get that all the way through.
Yeah.
It's so ingrained in me after 12 years of repeating it over and over again.
At the last roundtable, you guys had a really incredible slide. I think you should share that with families. It had the pictures that go with it.
Oh, can I share that with you? I can pull that up if you'd like to see that.
You should share that with everyone. I think for kids, when you put the picture with the words, I think it carries more weight.
And that was one thing that I did, is I got big poster board and I wrote out everything.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
And as we've been working on adventures, I've tried to go back to you know, today what we're working on is trustworthiness, you know, and this is in our scout law, you know, and try to do that. But I'm just
Is this
you know,
the one
Yes,
you're
nice.
referring to?
Yeah, that's the one. I love that. I love it.
yeah.
I need that, Elizabeth, as well.
Okay.
I know.
Learning.
Maybe I'll remember with the emojis.
Yes.
I mean, like visual
Yeah,
schedule.
it does.
Just having visuals with it, like a visual schedule, a visual anything helps a child so much,
Yes.
having those words and that visual to go with it. So I think that.
So Katie, this is, if you go to the website,
Okay.
down here under Councilwide Roundtables, if you click on that, all of the first ones, the PDF, it's in each of them. But so if you go back to January and just scroll down, then you could, you know, we use this when we're on Zoom, or sometimes we put just a big flag on there, but you can print off or put this graphic. You can even find that on the internet. I found that on the internet. So you can include that. But it also helps me.
I know somebody who has a den, and they were doing den meeting in the home. She set up a scavenger hunt with the 12 points of the scout law.
Oh, cool.
And the kids had to go and find them. They were labeled like clean. She put clean next to a faucet in the bathroom.
Oh.
You know, courteous, next to a light switch to turn the lights off when you're done, this kind of thing. And as far as having a flag, you know, you always got the standby on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And we talk about a round table full of adults, and all of a sudden found ourselves without a flag. Who got to stand up in front of the whole group and be the flag?
I've totally used that before, Tom. Be like, stand up, but I need your arm.
I need your arm patch.
We were doing the round tables in the same place you do your meetings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Katie, do you have a meeting spot?
We have been meeting at I think it's called the Eagles Club.
Oh, yep.
Which was just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of happened. I don't know who knew about it first, because like I said, me not being here, not living here very long, I didn't know much about anything.
Sure.
I think maybe Zach, I think you had a parent meeting there once, and then we just kind of continued. We contacted them and asked if we could keep, you know, meeting there until we get our charter organization, and they've been really accommodating to us. But
yeah, I think at the time the church wasn't letting any outside groups in. And so because you weren't meeting there throughout or not chartered with them, I think that was kind of the big key for them. So
yeah,
you could either go with the church, because I know a lot of the supplies is there, or you can keep, I mean, that's ultimately up to you guys. There's nothing in writing that says you have to meet where your chartered organization is. You can meet wherever you guys want. So that'll be a decision you guys will get to make.
Yeah, well, I think the Eagles Club, I think originally they had asked for like a $50 deposit, but nobody,
Yes, nobody contacted me either when I did it.
and
So
and so we've just been showing up and no one's said anything. I mean, I don't know, but I would love, Zach, when you contact the church, I
I'll
would
get
love
you connected
contact
with.
information. Yeah, whoever I need to talk to set up meeting times and stuff, because I don't even know if our normal meeting time, we meet every other week at 5, on Sundays at 5:30 right now. I'm trying to look for our next.
I believe the troop also meets Sunday nights too, so that's not any different than them. And
Yeah,
after we get you guys going, we'll get you connected with the church and then with the troop. So
yeah, because it would be really nice to see, to meet with, where I came from in Whitewater. I think our second year in scouting was, they had just enough kids to move up to make a troop. So we kind of did our pack meetings with them. So it was the troop and the pack, at least for, the first 15 minutes or so. But we all did the same flag ceremony together and stuff. So it would be nice if we
Very
could
cool.
do that, and have our other kiddos and our other families see what a professional meeting should look like.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a hard part when you're starting something new, is that, you want to give yourselves grace to, come to making your vision true, that you want to grow it, and you want it, you called it professional, you want it to look a certain way. I guess I would suggest that when you get to your bylaws, when you're working on that, writing down what you value, because even though you're not there yet, identifying what you value will give you grace for this time period, but it doesn't make what you're doing right now the norm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think what you're going to do right now is what you have to do to get it going. But when we're talking about, a more established program, you don't want people to say, well, we did it like that before, especially if that's not what you want. I mean, if it is, then don't let my advice. But I'm just saying, like, I think it's important to talk about what you value as a committee, or maybe you don't even have your committee right now, but just as the parents who are starting this new pack, I think it would be important at some point to just sit down and talk about, what do we value? And some of the families don't know what they value yet because they're so new to scouting. But that might be where the troop comes into play, and having them get to see that. With your new families, something that could work really well, and again, this is up to you, but something that could work really well is if the troop did kind of their opening ceremony, and did a 15-minute game with your kids, so just that they get a taste of, again, I'm going to use your word professional, so that they get a taste of what it can look like, just to maybe do that every now and then if they get that opportunity.
Kate, when you say what you value, what would be some things that you would say are in your pack, or I haven't actually heard that before. So what do you kind of mean? Like,
to be really honest, one of the things that got me involved as a leader was we were having some troubles with our values, accountability, who's in charge of the money and the decisions of how we spend our money. How much are we going to choose for popcorn? So secretary and a secretary's report. We value parents being involved. We value subcommittees that will help plan some of our events, like Pinewood Derby or crossover or parades. I use the word value. I don't know other, I guess you could call it other things, but these are the things that are important to us as we're establishing ourselves. It's important that that we get as many parents involved that we can. It's important that we don't have unilateral decisions. It's important that we're sharing responsibilities for planning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think yeah, I think maybe another word of like would priorities, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, like what's
really important, right?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Like
Yeah, I
And,
like to use I was just gonna say, I
go
like
ahead.
to use the word culture.
Yes.
You know, some of the best units that I've seen in my, 6 years working in this profession, they built the culture right from the very beginning. Like Kate was saying, we need parents to get involved. And so, if you remember sitting in that first parents meeting, I said, everybody here is going to do something. And part of that was because you guys were small, but the other side of it was, at some point, everybody needs help. And they're going to have to step up to do something. And so it shouldn't all fall on your shoulders either. And so, just little things like they're saying, and like Elizabeth said, don't give them necessarily the tagline of you're the treasurer, but can somebody just track this spreadsheet? It sounds like you kind of did that with the den leaders as well. Like that's a really good strategy of not really giving them the title, but giving them the work for it. So
yeah. And I will say the other parents and adults, they want to help, they want to be involved.
Yeah, there was a good group there, I will agree.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think sometimes I have a hard time of identifying what I need help with, but anything I've asked anybody to do, they've done it. It's just like figuring it all out, I guess, is just a hard thing.
And part of the culture thing is also retaining those parents is recognize them. Just like the kids get recognition for everything they do, we as adults, we enjoy it as well. And so an example would be the Seneca PAC. She was really struggling with adult leaders last year, but she just recognized all the parents that kind of stepped up and helped. And when she needed more on the charter for this time around, she's like, I didn't have any issues. Every parent that I asked was willing to step up. And so she recognized, I was at their blue and gold. She recognized every single family and gave the parents something too. And I was like, that's because you showed that you appreciated them, even the littlest ones that stepped up to just help clean up or whatever it is. So that's part of building that culture. And you sell them right away when they sign up, hey, you're going to help out in some fashion. And then after the event, it's, hey, thanks for helping out. Here's a little goodie bag. It doesn't have to be anything super big, but just that, hey, Elizabeth helped out by playing in this Pinewood Derby. Can we give her, a round of applause or whatever? So little things like that go a long way of establishing that culture and then maintaining it.
Thank you for saying that, because I don't know that I would have thought of that.
It's a good reminder to me too, Zach. Thank you.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the best units I've seen. They basically sit down. I had this, it was like a factory in my previous district. They would sit down the parents at the recruitment and say, what are you sign up to help out at these events? And they never had an issue with adult leadership. And then after every event, they recognized those parents that helped out with a certificate or something. And they were my best. They were the unit that everybody in the district looked at to try and model afterwards. But it takes that time to build. But, you're in a unique situation where we're kind of restarting from nothing, because all the kids that continued in scouting in Viroqua were 5th grade and older. So they kept going, and kind of took everything with them. And so you guys are restarting from zero. And this is the opportunity to establish that right away. And this is how we're going to do things here. And they were from a town no bigger than Viroqua. So there was, one school, just a couple hundred, I think they maybe had 150 kids in each class at the most. So pretty similar size to Viroqua, and you guys can establish that. And they, have in 2 years have 30, 40 kids in the pack, and you're sitting back like, oh, I've delegated all the workouts, so I don't have to do anything anymore.
I would love to get to a spot like that.
You will, Katie.
Yeah.
So I want to respect everyone's time here. And Katie, do you have Kate's and
No, I-
anybody else's email address? Kate, if you wouldn't maybe mind
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
in the chat.
Is that helpful or not helpful?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, I'm gonna work on, I know that our pack has some things that we would be willing to share with you.
thank you.
So I think your calendar is probably one of your, I feel like we we probably overwhelmed you. One of the things that I had said in our planning meeting is to try not to get overwhelmed. And that was really specific to den leaders, but you're in a very unique role. And
That's how I feel.
yeah, I could see how you would be easily overwhelmed, but I think, I mean, look at who's here right now talking to you, and there is a plethora of people who will, I think, be willing to work with you and answer your questions or even just bounce ideas off of. I think that's kind of where you're at. It sounds like you have a great vision. What I heard is probably prioritizing how you're going to, organize the rest of your year and then making those individual contacts. So if I took out of our conversation 2 things for you to do, that would be what I heard. Did anybody, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I think those are the 2 things that Katie might need to take from today.
Yeah. And we are here, Katie, like you can see, we're really excited that you are wanting to grow scouting in the area and coming in from Whitewater and knowing that scouting is a really valuable program for the youth. And we are here for you. And I'll run down to Viroqua if you need anything. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I could drive down or meet up or anything if you want to have a cup of coffee, and or I could bring my Pinewood Derby box down to you if you can.
Elizabeth, when do you
Yes.
get time to be a stay-at-home mom? We haven't got her all booked up, Zach.
I know. I just heard I've got more free time, so.
I just want to add too, though, Katie, sitting here, I'm new to scouting and all that, but it's really what's the word I'm looking for? Inspiring almost, and refreshing to hear you and to hear you speak about your ambition, and you can really tell that you care about everything that's going on, and I think that's huge, and it's really exciting. You have a big role right now, but the difference you're making and being with 5 of us, or almost 6 of us, and just yourself, that are I think it's really awesome of you. And I've this whole time I've been just like wanting to just be like, you're so great. Like, because it's really cool to you actually care, and you're asking these questions, and you being here tonight, that makes a big difference for these kids and for yourself, and so be proud of yourself. And it's hard, but you're doing something really awesome. And I'm not your district executive, but I would love, like Elizabeth said, anything you need, and definitely just let us know.
Thanks. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I'm really glad you and Kate got connected, because one thing that I lack is I don't have any kids, and I've never really kind of been a den leader or anything like that. I've run some maybe in school or after school programs that are just different enough that I don't see everything that the den leaders kind of do. So I can help you kind of up to a certain point, whereas I learned best by doing things, so I've never done it. So it's very hard for me sometimes to kind of visualize, what are the needs of the den leader? How exactly does this play out? So, Kate would be a great resource for a lot of things like that. But, feel free to reach out to Elias too, because he's going to be your best point of contact in Viroqua. He knows a ton of people. And then on top of that, he's probably forgot more about scouting than the 6 of us know, sitting on this call right now. That guy eats, lives and breathes scouting. So he's a great resource to have.
Yeah.
I also want to mention too, like Kate, I have my educational background is in early childhood education. So working with those younger kids is kind of what I'm good at. It's just, I just don't do it anymore. And so, if there's a time where you're like, what kind of activity or what's an idea for activities? I used to create these things in my last job, I created these things called like Mighty Minutes. And if you need a quick something to just pull out, and you have a transition time that you have a break, like I don't know how to fill this, having those Mighty Minute cards pull out, like, here, let's do this activity quick, so you have those available. And I think that was one of my goals when our planning meeting, is to create something for all of you to have on the go. If you guys are like, oh, we were going to do Pinewood Derby tonight, can't do it, what can we do to replace it? So
Morgan, I love that idea. I think, those of us who are teachers, that stuff comes naturally, and you can really sense like, oh, we're not. One of the biggest things about scouts is that they've sat in school all day long. And so we want to try to make our scouting opportunities as engaging as possible. And that's going to help with retention too. But it'll help your sanity. So I hope you do put that together, Morgan. I would love to see it too.
Yeah, something you can pull out, get them doing something for 10 minutes that just gets them moving, and then they get back engaged again, right?
Refocus.
Yeah.
And it can be a variety of things if you need to calm down one as well. What is something we can do where our bodies are moving a little too fast right now? How can we get, and like you're working with a wide variety of ages, and I worked with family providers, childcare providers that have infants to school age, and how do you do that, and how do you operate with that? So I'm kind of familiar with that as well. So like I said, I'm trying to come up with something, a tool for everyone that we can, like that will fit all ages. But like I said, you're doing great, and I really like everything that you said you got going on. So
I agree.
You're on the right path.
I hope so.
Well, hopefully, Katie, what are your thoughts in terms of anything did you find this helpful, or anything that we can do to follow up?
Yes, no, I kind of went into this meeting just not even knowing what to expect or what to ask for. So I really appreciate being able to have this discussion. I feel like even during this discussion, I feel like I came up with more questions, like the budget and ceremonies and things that I guess I wasn't thinking specifically about before coming in here. And I just really appreciate the openness from everybody.
Great.
It was really nice to meet all of you. Thank you.
You as well.
Thank you.
And we'll try not to reinvent the wheel for a lot of this stuff, because there's a bunch of people that were in your shoes that know, like Kate said, they have tools that they can share. And other people, so you don't have to start from the ground up. It's just like you said, using your brain to think if what do you need help with is also really hard, but we will be there for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, Kate. Thank you. And thank you, Kate Russell, for preparing for this and being so flexible in being able to help as off the fly on so many of these questions. So I hope everyone has a great evening, and let's stay in touch. Tom, you want to say something?
I just got Kate Russell. I got to ask you, because I've been watching this. Who got to be king of the couch back there?
The other
That's
one
my dog. I had to put the other one in the bathroom because they were roughhousing.
Yeah, I can see that.
I see the cats in the crate, and I thought at first the dog
Yes.
was in there for a minute.
I know. Well, I can't leave them out in the kitchen because I had started dinner, and so they all had to come in here. Sorry.
No, that's
I know how
fine.
that is.
We're on the tail end of our.
Saw mine pop up too.
I know. I thought Morgan had, when we were on the round table, I thought, and I told her this, I thought that she had, like, what did I say? A cockatoo or something?
Yeah.
It was like freezing, and it looked like she had a bird on her shoulder.
He got yelled at, and now is tucked in on the. That's when I turned my camera, and I had to tuck him in, so he would.
Go with the flow.
Yes. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, and we'll stay in touch.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye now.